All right, when I was at university, I wanted to help change the world, right? Like so many other students, maybe some of you, I had these big but kind of vague ideas and goals about trying to help people, right? Make a difference. And I knew a bit about climate change and a bit about renewable energy. So I thought, okay, that could be a pretty good place to start, right? Climate change, big problem, might come kill us all if we don't do something about it. Might as well start there. So I knew one of the main ideas, which was we have to stop burning fossil fuels to get all of our electricity. We have to get it from renewables instead, right? So things like solar, or wind, or nuclear. And I thought, okay, that's nice, but what am I supposed to do about that? I wasn't studying engineering or chemistry. I didn't work at some big energy company. It was going to take me years to get qualified and educated enough to try and bring more renewables into the world. And so I started asking everyone I knew who knew about this kind of thing and going on Reddit and Google and all over the internet, just trying to research what can I do about this. And I found out about this concept that was completely new to me. It was this idea of prosumers. You see, what most of us do is we just use electricity, right? We just watch Come Dine With Me or plug in our phones and do things like that. We're using electricity, but prosumers, they don't just use it, they make it as well. So they're producers and consumers of electricity, right? They're prosumers, get it? Nice, I thought that was pretty fun. Anyway, and people have been doing this for a while, okay? So they had things like diesel generators, and they've been burning diesel to make electricity, which is cool. You know, you can get some electricity in some pretty remote places like that. But nowadays, we can do that all with renewables as well. You can use solar panels. So you can get zero emission, no fossil fuels, no smoke, but still make your own electricity. And people were doing this and doing amazing things with the electricity they made. So they were in really remote parts of Togo or Kenya or Pakistan, and they didn't have a lot of resources, and they weren't actually making that much electricity either, but they had things like these little solar lights. Okay, so just a mini solar panel, it creates electricity from the sunlight, charges up a battery, and then that battery powers this light, and you can use that light at night. And you can use it for amazing things. People were using it to ward lions away from their villages or their farms because these lions were going to come and kill their goats or their cows, okay? Or they were lighting their homes and allowing some of their children to read and study later into the night and improve their educational prospects. Or they were keeping their shops open for longer and generating more sales like that. So they were completely changing their lives, just generating a little bit of their own electricity. And again, I thought, okay, that's amazing, but I'm here living in London. I don't need to do that, right? I can just plug my phone into that socket there. You know, I don't need to make my own electricity. Why would I get involved with this? Like, what is the point of doing this prosumer thing in places like cities where more than half the world's population now live? Why would we do it? To answer that question, I did a little experiment of my own, and I got really hyped up, and I bought myself a solar panel, okay? And I was at UCL at the time, and I went to the UCL management, and I said, hey, please let me put this panel on top of your roof, okay? And I'm gonna give you some really, really good data. What we can do with that data is we can show how much electricity we'd make if we did this all over the university, and then that would show us how much carbon we could stop emitting, how much we could reduce our footprint, and also how much money we could save long term on our electricity bill. And that looked a bit like this, okay? So this is Bidborough House, just a back office building at UCL. You probably don't even know it. They didn't give me a good one. But there's me and my panel and my budget-looking box for the bricks and wires. And I'm gonna be straight up, this was a bit of a failure, this experiment, okay? I only got a couple months data. Some of my equipment really overheated and got quite damaged. My hair was meant to come out silver, but it looked like that. The whole thing was just a mess, okay? But luckily for me, there were a lot of other students who were interested in doing something similar at UCL and like SOAS and other universities around us. And the students, they worked with the management staff, and the students would do things like site surveys. So they go up onto these rooftops with permission, and they'd look and they'd say, okay, you can put a solar panel here or a solar panel there. Or they'd do the financial case. So if they were economic students, they would crunch all the numbers and make sure this actually would save money. Things like that. And the management staff, they loved it, and they rolled with it, and they actually helped deliver together a really successful project. It's on top of Langton Close, one of the accommodation blocks around here. They put almost 100 panels up there. So it was a massive success because they actually got a lot of students engaged with this. They were saving money and they were reducing emissions, right? Like that holy trinity of good stuff. And you know, I was proud of my community. You know, I was proud of this UCL community of prosumers. And I was thinking, yeah, that was awesome. And then I left. I left UCL and I went and got a job in the energy industry. And I thought, okay, well, that prosumer thing, that was kind of fun and it was cool. And I got to do some fun stuff, but that's it. Like, it just seemed so small scale to me, right? It was just maybe one university or one rooftop or a couple houses or even just like a small village or a farm. I thought to reduce emissions, we've got to change this big system. And for electricity, that big system is the electricity grid. And that's where all our emissions are coming from. And that's what we need to change. We don't need to do small things like that. Prosumers, I couldn't see how prosumers fit into the big system. But the answer was actually right in front of my face, because the company I went to work for, we do a lot of things, but one of the main things is we ensure that the electric buses charge up at night, okay? So like a London bus, it's going around, it's using up the charge in its battery, comes back into the depot, we just make sure it gets enough battery for the next day. It sounds easy, I promise you it's not that easy. Anyway, something kind of magical happens when you plug an electric vehicle into the grid. Because what you're doing is, there's a battery on that electric vehicle, and you're directly connecting that battery to the national power system through this charger. And if you do that with enough vehicles at the same time, you're plugging all these batteries in, it's like you've got this massive battery connected to the power grid. And if there's a lot of demand for electricity, there'll still be some energy left in those batteries at the end of the day. And what you can do is, rather than pushing energy out of the grid into the vehicle batteries, you can push it the other way as well. You can use that energy you have stored still and go and power homes or offices or people watching Come Dine With Me using that energy from those batteries. And this is actually going to have a massive, massive impact on the big system, because it addresses what is arguably the biggest problem of managing an electricity system, and that is peak demand. So 5 p.m. when everyone comes home and plugs in their laptops and turns on the TV and puts the kettle on and everything like that, there's a massive spike for demand for electricity because everyone wants to use it at the same time. And actually, it's forecast to get a lot worse as well. So right now, at the moment in 2020, that gray bar there, that's where it was. And in some scenarios, it could look like this big red bar, right? So more than twice as high, this level of peak demand. Now, if we have enough prosumers, enough people with electric vehicles, and they're willing to do this kind of smart charging, right? Like pushing energy out of their batteries or changing the way they're charging their vehicles, we could have a 22% reduction in peak demand by 2050. So let me put that another way. What is arguably the biggest problem of modern energy, if we have enough prosumers, we just use this one prosumer idea, we can make 22% of that issue go away. Okay, so now I was getting really, really excited about this, and I was thinking, okay, look, I gotta write this talk, I gotta slow down my hand motions when I do it. I just gotta, you know, how can I convince these people that this is gonna go mainstream? Because they're not seeing it in the world. You know, this is hidden away in bus depots or on rooftops or in farms in Togo. People aren't seeing this. When is it gonna go mainstream? And I realized it's already happening. So I don't go on Twitter much, but when I do, I always find the best tweets. And here's BBC News, Scotland News still counts, BBC News talking about Coldplay, who on their next tour, okay, they're gonna have these kinetic dance floors, right? So those are dance floors that are powered, or sorry, not the power, but that generate power from the movement of their fans, okay? So it doesn't matter if you're rocking out to Viva La Vida, okay, or just openly weeping to the scientist, I'm in that latter category, you're gonna be generating electricity. You're gonna be a prosumer. So the barriers to entry are down here. You know, you don't need to have a business or solar panels on your home or an electric vehicle to be a prosumer, to be part of this movement. If you just have a little solar light, or you just go to a gig, you could be part of this. And what's next? I mean, we could have gyms where all of the exercise equipment is generating electricity and charging a battery or powering the lights. And even if you're like me and your bike workout lasts like 6 minutes, it's all gonna add up. But you have enough spin classes, they add up. But what's more, it gets people talking about this as well. Engagement is a key part of any movement, of this whole climate mission, and definitely of this prosumer thing as well. What if people didn't talk about how many calories they burnt? They talked about how many kilowatt hours of electricity they were generating. That's how they flexed on the gram, you know? It could be completely different. And you know, you could have something as basic as the floor, literally the most basic thing in the world, the ground, okay? We've had dance floors. You could just have normal pavements with some kind of pressure pad that's gonna generate electricity every time you take a step. It sounds ridiculous, it sounds wacky, but I'm sure electric vehicles sounded wacky to a lot of people. I know kinetic dance floors, by the reaction to this audience, sounded wacky to a lot of people. The bigger the idea, the more engaged people are gonna be with it. And that means you have more prosumers, you got more renewables on the grid, and that means you have less emissions and less smoke and less fossil fuels, right? This whole thing, at the end of the day, is about our planet. It's our planet and it's our future. And we do talk a lot about having to change the big system and the big companies, big organizations, all of their behavior. And that's true, that's 100% what we need to do. But that doesn't mean we can't act as individuals or as communities, right? People like you and me and communities like this one can act and make a difference through something like being a prosumer. Prosumption is an opportunity that is accessible and effective for stopping climate change or mitigating climate change. And it's an opportunity that I really think we should try and take. Thank you very much.